I thought about getting really artsy and playing specific music and all of that, but I figured I would cut maybe some of the theatrics. But at home, I normally come and sit down at my wheel and we'll play some music. Sometimes it's a little more secular and sometimes a little more sacred, but there's very specific music that can kind of help set a mood. So bear with me a little bit as I'm throwing without music. So I'm Kaitlyn. If you can't see me, you're welcome to move on up. And as a potter, sometimes we get a rap for being a little artsy, a little a little more emotional maybe than some of our mathematics counterparts or something. But you'll probably notice that Brandon and I do make an interesting dynamic duo. I'm more of the introvert or more of the internalizer than Brandon is. Brandon's a little more charismatic. Can I have you hold these? Don't sell them. So Adam thought it would be really great if I would throw while I work. We'll see how it goes. So normally I throw in 1 chunk blocks, or 1 pound chunk blocks, just in case you're wondering how much I'm working with. Brandon had some good introduction. I just have a Bible verse for us. In a large house, there are not only vessels and objects of gold and silver, but also of wood and earthenware, some for noble purposes and some for common. 2 Timothy 2:20. I'm a common. I am one of common purposes. It's really satisfying. Sometimes when I come to sit down to throw, this is not part of my script, but sometimes when I sit down to throw, I like to think about God saying, "Let there be light," and just that's kind of that initial moment. It's kind of exciting when I think about what it would look like for God to kind of sit in over the waters, because as you sit down and you throw, you're told to keep your elbows in and to keep your nose over the center, and you literally are hovering over waters. So there are a lot of times where I learn more parables about, or more hands-on learning about different parts of Scripture that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be a clay part of the Bible, but it's kind of, some of these things go through my mind a lot as I'm sitting down to work. So not all of us are going to be artistic in our spare time, let alone in our work, but everyone does have work. Our days are largely spent at work. In fact, about 33% of our lives are spent at work before you retire. And if you're somebody like me who gets at least 8 hours of sleep a night, or you are not a pleasant person, you spend about 53% of your daily waking hours spent at work. A lot of our days are common, like that Bible verse. A lot of times I feel like that vessel made for common purposes, but God cares about how we work, our attitudes, the way we treat other people at work. God cares actually even about the quality of our work. Colossians 3:23 says that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not for human masters. Maybe like Poppy, who has a little whistle while he works while he scrapes something horrible. I do enjoy a job well done, But there is something different about a task being complete versus making a task or making a thing that is beautiful. I feel like I'm shouting. Am I shouting? Okay. Skillfully done work and beautifully done work have a way of delighting us and making people feel valued. I actually heard something more recently about in a women's shelter for women who have gone through hard times, where artists will be commissioned to do work in there, and how those women will just cry because they finally feel valued enough to have artwork in their presence. A lot of times it's not the women's shelter that gets the art, or the men's shelter that gets the art. I thought that was pretty moving. So skillfully done work and beautiful work have a way of delighting people and making us feel valued. I'd like to say that again. It's why tailored clothing fits just good. If you've got a nice tailored outfit, man, you just feel like $1 million with it. That's why at the farmer's market, when there's the guy who makes the hand-whittled spoons, you just want to grab it because it's so skillfully made, like you just have to touch it. It's why I even thought about a non-creative job of a job well done, like cleaning a bathroom really well. When you go into a public bathroom that's just really well cleaned, you feel really taken care of. We'll get to that attitude in a minute. It's why even though sometimes I've not always been the person who wants to buy the thing that, or even thought it was a good idea to buy the thing that made me want to grab it and touch it and hold it, and I wanted that thing. For me and Brandon, one time we were in Little Nashville. We went to a little art gallery. It's the one that looks kind of like a red barn, and they had an artist who made these beautiful necklace pendants out of a wax seal. And this one was, it had a significant meaning to it. It said, serve God and love God and serve the King is what it said. And so I thought, I kind of like that, like serve your community, serve those around you, but also, more importantly, love God. And I didn't buy it. A couple of days later, Brandon found himself in Little Nashville. There was a bank down there that he needed to go to. And he came home with that necklace, and I drooled over it. Wouldn't buy it for myself, but it means a lot to me. Not just because he bought it for me, but because it had a meaning to it, and it was really skillfully made. I wouldn't have felt that way about something from Claire's or Kohl's or something, For me, a lot of times it's when I sit down to do some work, I think about making something skillfully made. And I think, how is the end user going to actually interact with this? If it's too heavy, no one wants to pick it up time after time. If it's an uncomfortable grip, no one wants to grab it time after time. But if you make something just right, you want to grab it again and again and again. And it brings that smile to your face. Being good at our work should matter. When I looked at the Bible, I realized I pulled out somebody for graduation one time got me a strongest, not the Strongs, but the strongest of the Strong's Bible Concordance. And every once in a while I whip that out. And in that Strong's Concordance, just the skilled craftsman, just that phrase, is mentioned in a positive light 56 times, just in that one concordance. Skilled craftsman. Some that I really like, one I know Nick Mullis likes, is Lydia. She's a purple dealer of purple cloth. She's clearly esteemed. She's good at her work. You know how I know it? You don't get to work with the good stuff if you're not trusted to work with the good stuff. You've got to be skilled to work with the purple dyes. That's expensive. Proverbs 20:29 says that a skillful work leads to position and favor. It says, do you see someone skilled at their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before obscure men. I'm not necessarily a big status person, but I do like to be praised. I won't lie. I like a job well done. Proverbs 31:18 and 31 both commend the woman who perceives her merchandise as profitable, and ends with a blessing to give her the fruit of her hands and let her works praise her in the gate. Have you ever made something you're just really, really proud of? That work can praise you in the gates a little bit. And then one that I read even last night, I got excited and told Brandon about it. King Solomon asked King Hiram, king of Tyre, to be his supplier of cedar and cypress because he specifically asks him, because no one knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. I like to be somebody that nobody knows how to cut it like you know, how to do a good job like you do. Give me time to slow it down. So there's the pride in your work that is good to have. The Bible shows us that it's good to have pride in your work. It's good to do a job well. But does it matter to God? Like, it matters to Proverbs, to the people of the Bible, but does it matter to God? We've talked about how God says, let there be light. But after he says that, he says, it's good. We've recently started watching The Chosen, kind of here and there. And on the second episode in the first season, there's a scene that Jesus is in his carpenter's apron. He's doing some whittling, working on a lock and key, and he gets done with it and he says, it's good. I loved that. I kind of lost my little artistic mind when I saw that. I thought, yeah, it is good. That's good. There's just something about doing a good work. We have to remember that God has deemed us good. We have to remember that beauty and work matter to God. Not only did God deem his work good, but he made it skillfully. He didn't just make it utilitarian. He didn't put up straight rows of lights in the sky, organized to just be dutiful. He has a beautiful arrangement of them, organized only by cosmos, galaxies. My walls aren't as even as I'd like right now, so give me just a second. I'm talking too much. God not only tells people, hey, get to work. You're a gardener, and you get to name all the animals. You get to name the zoo, which I think is cool. He later commissions architecture and artwork to be made for his temple. Very specific. Down to the number of curtain rings that are supposed to be on there, the weight of gold used to make the lampshade or the lamp stand. Very specific. Even God knew nobody wanted to carry around a heavy lampstand. God gets specific because God recognizes the impact that beautiful and well-made objects have on somebody. He also puts rules around beauty. He says it shouldn't distract from who the real God is. Right? Sometimes we get a little too proud of something we made. Sometimes that thing becomes more important than God himself. But beauty that is good shows us that something has value and longevity. Like I mentioned before about the women's shelter with the artwork. That's an example of pure beauty, good beauty. Beauty can immerse us into the goodness of God and the glory due to Him. Have you ever been somewhere that you recognize that? For Grayson, he's not in here to talk about it. A while back, we had to go to St. Vincent Church. There was a funeral there, and Brandon had work, and he wasn't connected with that funeral anyway, the person who had died. So I went and I took the kids with me. We weren't going to stay for the whole Mass. It was just quick visitation. So I walk in the doors. The place was packed. Okay? The place was packed. So I start getting a little nervous. We're going to have a long line. I'm glad to be there, glad to go. I was a little nervous. However, the kids read the room and they realized, hey, this isn't the place to be rowdy. Thankfully, they were able to read that room. Grayson wanted to be picked up. I think he could sense the emotion in the room, so I held him. He's my sweetie anyway. He wants to be held all the time. So I held him. He starts kind of looking around. Above us is a beautiful chandelier. Has a common purpose just to light that path. It's not the main one in the church, just the one right when you walk in the front entry. He's looking at it. We round the corner. He starts noticing the candles and, all of the different pictures of the saints and things that we just don't have in our church, right? Our church is beautiful, but we don't have the kind of imagery that St. Vincent has. St. Vincent is beautiful. It's just beautiful. We round the corner, get up a little more. He's looking at the stained glass, and then all of a sudden, he hadn't said a word. I mean, not a word. He wasn't even two. Not a word. He goes, whoa, that's a big God. And I think about that a lot of times. How often can beauty, if we really look at it, can make us go, whoa, that's a big God. While I center this, maybe you can think about a place where you realized how small you are in comparison to the goodness of God. There's a place specific. Better pick up the pace. I have time for one more. So Brandon mentioned I taught art, taught middle school and senior high art at different schools. But taught for 5 years. We had 2 kids in there, and that art teacher salary does not pay for daycare. So I did the whole stay-at-home mom thing, and I knew at some point, even when I started teaching, like, I'm not going to do this forever. Like, I knew right away. Not because it was bad, but because I knew I wanted to do something outside of teaching that would be more than just teaching during a school day. So when I decided to really delve into pottery, making and selling, I started really examining what's the point of this. Is it truly a selfish endeavor just because I want to do it? Sometimes it can feel like just another thing to need to do, another store to need to go and buy something, another somebody to get ready for to come over. Because while I'm not just making pottery in my home, I'm also teaching it out of our home. I have a little basement studio. So I started really getting intentional. And when you do that, when you first start a business, everyone will say, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a business plan, you are going nowhere. And I thought, I want to go nowhere. I want to go somewhere. So I started looking at some business gurus' plans or like template for what would make a good business plan. Because I didn't go to business school. I went to education school and art school. So I studied up. But everything felt kind of empty and void when I was answering some of those questions. So I really had to start asking why. Why do I do what I do, and what's the actual point of it? Some of the questions I answered weren't giving me quite the emphatic answer that I was hoping to have, something that felt really valuable. It was just like, well, I went to school for this, and this is what I want to do. But I had heard that if you really want to understand somebody, you can get to the depth of their answer by asking why 3 times. So that's what I did. I would give an answer and ask why. And when it came to why, I really noticed that what I really like about the art studio is that you get to create an atmosphere for people to come in, reconnect with each other if they're there with other people, quiet down, and if they're a believer, reconnect with God. Because the thing that I've learned as a creative person is that God is a parable teacher. He teaches me a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier about, the hovering over the waters. I wouldn't experience that in the same way if I had just read it without having that kind of artistic connection with God in that way. Sometimes when I'm doing the work, I'll have a complaint in my own head, or sometimes not in my own head. I'll talk to myself, and I'll hear God go, is that how you feel? Imagine how I feel. Sometimes that's all I need to straighten myself up. Sometimes it leads me closer to God because I just ask questions, or I have time to pause and be quiet. Sometimes I wonder if it's just the creative person that has the time in their day to really think about how God can come into your everyday moments and teach you something that's not every day, something that is sacred out of those ordinary things. But I don't think that's true. I think anybody who's working any job has the ability to ask God to come in and be a part of the work, to be a teacher in the middle of the work. How would your work change if you asked God to meet you in the ordinary and in the common? If we say vocation is a larger calling over your skill set, and the larger purpose drives and guides your decisions, your behaviors, and your attitudes of the given task, job, career, or season, I kind of wonder if we lean into that enough. Or if we just have a job. Maybe your job doesn't feel like your true vocation. If your job doesn't feel like your true vocation, I'm not telling you to quit your job. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But I do challenge you to really think, what is your vocation? You don't have to work your vocation, but God can work your vocation through your job. So for me, it's the creating the experiences. When I taught middle school and high school art, I would hear from the school counselor or the nurse, the ones who get all the kids in tears at their door, or the ones that say, I think I need to go on medication because I feel X, Y, and Z. I'd hear them say to me, so the nurses and the counselors would come in and they'd say, hey, so-and-so came into my office today, and I thought, oh no, please no. What am I going to have to email a parent about? And instead they'd They felt so calm in your classroom, they really hope that next semester they can get another class period with you. That's not because I'm a spectacular teacher. It's because I knew what kind of an atmosphere cultivates wanting to be in the room and wanting to do the work. So when I really think about what I do, I provide space for people to be refreshed and challenged through encountering creative work. Whether it's a finished piece that you give to somebody because you can't go give them a hug in the hospital, but you want to give them a hug, you want to give them a nice warm hug, so instead you send them a cup, bag of tea, little swizzle stick of honey. Or whether it's creating the right lighting and having the right music and the right amount of the teacher shutting their mouth to give people the chance to come into the little basement studio that we have and actually do the work themselves in their own introverted time. I think I'm going to close with the verse from the beginning. In a large house, there are not only vessels and objects made of silver and gold, but also of wood and earthenware. Some are for noble purposes and some are for common. For me, it's those common materials, the common everyday purposes, making the plate for Tuesday's leftover lunch, making a cup for somebody who's going to have Monday morning's coffee in it, making a mixing bowl for Saturday morning pancakes, or a wedding anniversary gift so that couple can realize, hey, we got married and we have good memories. I think I would challenge us just to look for that beauty in our daily lives, because that beauty is going to point you to God, whether you live or work in a creative frame of mind or not. Take that time to look for that beauty and then to actually say it out loud. It is good. This one is not good, actually, to be honest. It's a little lopsided, but I think went over. I'm sorry. Thanks for letting me be quiet when I needed to.
I feel like we've just been drinking from a fountain, and there's treasure there, and it's just like I wrote down. I wasn't like doing anything on my phone. But I was writing things down, like sometimes your work isn't your vocation, but God can use can work your vocation through your work. That kind of this is just so. I feel like I got saved and sanctified 5 times tonight. Like, I just thank you so much, guys, for sharing your stories and your passions, and we just pray God's blessing over you all, and this was just so rich. So thank you so much. Thanks for sharing what God's doing, and I don't know if you've noticed, but every night we've had it. This was week 3. Something beautiful. I'm just trying to connect some dots with this. Something beautiful each night came out of what we would call our failures. Every night, that's been a theme. And so I just want to let you know, I just reminded a few people today, like, our failures don't define who we are. God, just like that lump of clay, I mean, now she's repurposing something. What was that? Was that the pots you just made? The last one? Sometimes he just throws us back on the wheel and he says, let there be light. So, so just so beautiful. So thank you all. Thank you so much, guys. Can we thank them again? Can we thank the Brooks family? So if they can help in any way, you know, I told Brandon was like, he was nervous. He was nervous he did not want to come across as the sales pitch guy. And I said, no, you don't understand. Like, I really believe in what you're doing as something that our community needs. So this has nothing to do with, I mean, I want the Brooks family to be blessed because I believe in what God's doing through them. All right, but I really believe that what they're doing is bringing life. So if you know somebody that needs help, you know, reach out to them. I said if you don't extend an invitation, I will. So I will again. Like, hey, make sure if you need help or somebody you know needs help, reach out because those things are. You didn't use the word shame, but people feel shame over the secret hidden life, and a lot of times our home is is a symbol of something greater, all right, when it comes to our personal lives. Like, that's an extension, a symbol of just like this feeling of I don't want to be exposed. I don't want people to really know, but there is freedom, all right? There's no shame. Christ came to lift shame off of us, not shame on us. So I just want to let you know, like, this type of stuff can bring real spiritual freedom to you. This has spiritual implications, all right? I whistle when I walk through my garage right now, okay? It's like, yes, that's so good to feel free from it. But 3 months ago, I wasn't whistling. You know how that feels. So those are real spiritual things. All right, guys, I appreciate you all coming. And if you have any questions for them, they'll be up here, and but you guys have a great night. Lord bless you, and thanks for being here. Hey, Kelly's going to be next week, and did you know he's a beekeeper? There's going to be a hive of bees in here next week. I'm joking, but it'll be great. So come back next week. Lord bless you all.